You know what I mean? I could barely move for a day or two or whatever. And I was in the living room because I could be propped up there, and the TV was on, and everybody left, and I couldn't get the remote. So I was forced to watch what was there. Would you like to know what was there, dude?
No.
I'm going to tell you. Here it comes. Jersey Shore.
Oh, you didn't.
We're talking about
Reality
the situation.
TV show.
The situation. Pauly D.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp and Skizz podcast.
A guilty pleasure is an activity or piece of media that someone enjoys but would be embarrassed by if other people found out about it.
Mm-hmm.
These might be books, movies, TV shows, foods, etc. Generally, the guilty pleasure is something that might be viewed as shameful by some people, like trashy novels or overdone rom-coms, and that's the definition.
Ooh, okay.
And those are examples, and we're talking about guilty pleasures
Rom-coms. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there. Why not?
today. All right.
Let's start there. And this is a movie that's going to date me a little bit.
We're talking guilty. We're going through our
own
yeah.
guilty pleasures. We're going to come out with them, I suppose. So there was a movie that, and maybe I just had a crush on the actress or something. I don't know what. But I think it was in the 90s, called The Cutting Edge.
Oh, boy.
And it was a story about like a hockey player who I think got injured. And so he couldn't be a professional hockey player anymore. And then a figure skater who just like could not keep a partner because she was just a little too much, a little brash, I guess. I'm trying to use proper words here. And so they pair up this ex-hockey player with this figure skater to try to like do a couple pair figure skating for the Olympics or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is like them fighting and her trying to teach him how to use like figure skates as opposed to hockey skates. Have you ever had the difference of hockey skates versus figure skates?
I think the figure skates have like a toe pick or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a moment where he's training and he's not used to the toe pick because they don't have that with hockey skates, and he falls face forward and you just hear in the background going toe pick, you know. And I love that movie for some reason. Yeah. And anytime I've ever mentioned it, like either one, people haven't heard of it, or two, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you like that movie? I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
so you
I
think
just like a love story from time to time. You know, it's cute. They're fighting. They get along.
Yeah.
You know, is it going to happen? Or are they going to win the gold? You know, I thought it was a good movie.
Okay. All right. So you're sort of not supposed to like that movie,
right?
Yeah. Okay,
right.
That's fair. Is it?
You wouldn't look at me and be like, I bet you he likes Cutting Edge.
Is it? Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay.
So that doesn't exactly fit.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
All right. So here's a guilty pleasure, and I think this is an artist, and I think that you have the same guilty pleasure. Guys our age, not supposed to be into Taylor Swift. Not supposed to. And I'm not.
But I'm willing to shake it off.
You've had that one locked and loaded. So, so here's the deal. It's not like I like all of Taylor Swift stuff, but there is a good chunk of her catalog that, to me, here's what cannot be argued. It cannot be argued what a gorgeous voice that she has. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And some of the songs are like Shake It Off are like, they're fun, man. Yeah. And they're poppy and they work. And I'm yet to come by a song that I think is like this, like ultra deep, whatever, but maybe I just haven't been exposed to it. But that's not an artist we're supposed to like, Impulse. We're grown men. We're not supposed to be like, oh, put on some Taylor Swift.
I mean, I'm not saying that we're full-blown Swifties going. I didn't go to her concert. I didn't make any friendship bracelets. None of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't go over the top. But when one of her songs come on, I will stop and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does a run. I think I have the right song. Let me think. I think it's called Blank Space is the name of the song. I think this is a perfect testament that I could be right. I could be wrong. But she has a little a run in there that she does, and it's very, very brief. But it's like, I bet you I can play it here, but because it'll only be like a second long. I bet you I can do it right here. That right there. I don't know what it is about that, but that little piece there, I think that was probably the segment that I was like, yeah, this chick's got a really, really, really good voice. And the more I listened to her, the more I realized, no, this is like, she's the real deal.
Yeah.
She's very, very talented.
You know who's a huge Taylor Swift fan?
Her mom.
Gemini Tay.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they share the same name, Taylor.
That's true.
Yeah.
She's now Gemini Taylor Swift. That works.
She loves Taylor Swift. I tried to teach Jem a little bit of like music history a little bit because she didn't know who Alanis Morissette was.
Oh.
And the fact that Jem's from like Canada and Alanis Morissette's from Canada, I thought for sure. Because you know, in Minecraft, there's that advancement when you get your first iron pick, and it says, "Isn't it Iron pick?"
Yeah.
And it's like
She always just let that
she
slide.
never knew what that was. And so we were recording. This was like episode 1, season 9, Hermitcraft. We were recording, and it came up, and I started singing, "Isn't it Iron pick? Don't you think?" And then she's like, "What are you singing?" And I had to stop and like explain it to her. And I literally like sent her the song in Discord so she could listen to it. And I was like, "Come on, you gotta get into this." Alanis Morris, that's awesome.
How do you not know who Alanis? She was not some sort of big, small deal. She was huge.
No, but we're talking about somebody that was like, that music was popular like in the 90s, right? Like, so.
Yeah, but she knows who Elvis is. She knows who the Beatles are.
True.
Like,
yeah. I need to
okay,
do a little
everybody
music
just
history.
went. Everybody just listening, just was like, is he comparing Alanis Morissette to Elvis? No,
I went to
but
a
sort
Beach
of.
Boys concert. That was definitely before my time.
See,
you know,
you know what? Let me tell you something about Alanis Morissette. We're way off subject. I'm fine with it. It's not even a guilty pleasure. I'm a huge fan of her entire catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Like. What an artist she was right out of the gate. I loved everything that she did. And then I went to one of her concerts, and I'm just going to say it. She is really hot. Like I did not see that coming. I went to the concert and I went with a buddy of mine, and the whole time he's like, she is really hot. I'm like, I know, I wasn't expecting that. Anyways, I digress.
So I remember listening to Jagged Little Pill on repeat. This could be a guilty pleasure, I suppose.
There you go.
So my dad, he was driving a truck. He would drive, 18-wheelers across the country and deliver stuff. And so I was going to go to have family in Iowa, and I was going to go like stay with family for a little while. And it just so happened that his route on the truck was going to drive through Iowa. So he was just going to drop me off where I needed to go. And so I remember just hanging out. He had a cab, like in the back of the truck where he could like sleep, and had a refrigerator and everything. It was crazy. And so I was just laying in the cab, like listening to Jagged Little Pill on repeat for the entire trip to Iowa, which was like a 2.5-day drive or something, like 2-day drive, I think. And so
like
I listened to
the album,
okay, Jagged Little Pill, Alanis Morissette. So like anytime I hear a song from that album, I go back to being in the back of my dad's truck.
Oh, yeah.
And because that's where it was. Yeah. Like music does that for me. It like triggers memories. That's why I love music so much. Cause I can typically like remember a time of my life where I was like heard that song for the first time or whatever. And so Jagged Little Pill does that to me.
Well, we did a podcast about the power of lyrics, and that was a really fun one to do. And we talked about possibly going back and doing one about music, and maybe that's another day. That's because I'm with you. I'd like to really dive into that. But okay. I want to get back to guilty pleasures. So wait, who went last?
So what did we announce? The music.
Oh yeah,
a movie. Is there? I said a movie. Is there a movie that you're embarrassed that you like?
Okay. Yes. I was almost gonna say. I'm just gonna. All right, fine. I'll just dive right into it. Okay, here it goes. There's a movie that's all about BMX racing, and it's a movie called Rad. And this has been this movie that like me and my buddies have I can't figure it out. Like it's one of those things where when we go on our guys trip, we watch it every single time. And actually we end up watching it. Sometimes we just let it loop and this plays. Like we'll watch it 5-6 times throughout the trip, This movie is so stupid. And here's the thing, is that I really, really like it. This is like Lori Loughlin's in it, and she must be 17, dude. Like it's an old movie. And it's so like ridiculous. She's supposed, it's about these BMXers, and they're really amazing. The opening credits and the end credits with the type of BMXers that they brought in to do a lot of the shots or whatever, they're amazing, right? And I mean, I don't know if anybody doesn't know what this is, but BMXers it's a bike. It's
I was gonna say you should send it to Mumbo because he was said it like he was way into BMX.
Yeah, I think I will. I wonder if he's seen it. I think I will.
He definitely has not.
Well, hold on for a second. There's a lot of people listening and watching who are like, I know exactly what movie he's talking about. It was actually relatively like a kind of a big movie. The woman who plays, I'm forgetting the actress's name, but she plays Rocky Balboa's wife and Rocky, she's in the movie.
Okay.
And there's other names, like you'd recognize their faces, but not a bunch of huge names. And there's another guy that was like a famous Olympian gymnast. He's in the movie. I can't remember. I'm blowing it. Okay. But anyways, it's this movie about BMXing, and it's just really, really stupid, where there's this kid he's like has his own paper route, and he can't just do the paper route. He's got to do like tricks the whole time, which is pretty cool. And then these like big time BMX like competition business comes into the town to like do this competition there, but it's all for the famous people who are sponsored. But this kid wants to get in on it, and they just want to keep him out because they don't want him to beat their star guy who's like the guy or whatever. And that's your story. Here's the problem, dude. It's like, the acting is so bad. The lines are like, it's just so bad. Everything is so bad. The direction is so bad. And I'm just going to say it. I know that they were like, I don't know if they didn't have a whole lot of like female BMXers back in the day when this was made or whatever. But there's a scene where Lori Loughlin is like, you know, she's supposed to be this amazing BMXer, but as you watch this movie, you could tell she barely knows how to ride a bike, but she's supposed to be like super good. And she like, she's about to do this incredible stunt. So they got on a bike on the, you know, it's just the front shot so she can't fall or whatever. Then it cuts to the back of her just doing some sick thing. It's like a 185-pound man with a wig. Like, it's just like so bad, dude. And that's like, that's kind of the charm of the movie. And I remember because my good buddy, it's like his favorite movie ever, I finally started to realize we love this movie because it's us. It's for us. Like we share how the nonsense of it. And then it was a couple of years ago, I started to realize, crap, I think he thinks that this is a good movie. And I was like, and I told him, and we had this moment. It was actually on a guy's trip. This is several years ago. It was on a guy's trip. And I said, hey buddy, so the movie Rad, you know, it sucks, right? He's like, what did you just say? Yeah. And I was like, you know, like unequivocally, it's a terrible movie. He's all, what are you saying right now? He was very upset. I'm like, dude, no. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. And he's all, oh, you're pissing me off. And I was like, dude, the movie is objectively bad. He's all, I don't want to hear this anymore. And it was like this really funny, everybody else was cracking up. He was pissed for a long time, like a long time. And I'm like, I love watching it with you, but the movie sucks, bro.
I had that same thing happen to me when I told Tango that I really liked the movie A Knight's Tale.
Oh, okay.
Tango, he was shocked that like, and I love that movie. I've watched it so many times. I love it. Like if it's you know how like it'll just come on TV and it's just like if I'm scanning for channels and I'm just like, oh, A Knight's Tale, I'll stop every single time. Yeah. There's not been one time where I'm like, oh, A Knight's Tale is just being played on TV. I'm gonna like go past it. No, it never happens. So anyway, I told Tango about this, that I loved A Knight's Tale, and he was like, he was in horror. He's like, that movie was so terrible that this was his words. That movie was so terrible that me and my wife walked out of the theater in the middle of the movie. It was that bad in his eyes. And I was like, I was so heartbroken. I was like, no, it's so good. It's called Alans. Like, come on. Like, it's got so many good moments. And Heath Ledger, of course, rest in peace. It was amazing in it. I don't know. I love that movie. I know you haven't really given it a chance.
I think I watched it once, and we talked briefly about this. And I'm we don't need to go too far down that rabbit hole. I'm a massive Heath Ledger fan, and his exit is awful. And I remember seeing the movie, and I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great. But you also said, did you try watching it 100 times? And you actually have an argument there. Yeah. That, like the movie Rad. Let me put it this way. If you've never seen the movie Rad, you would probably want to just say, I'm not watching this movie anymore within the first 5 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean? But every single time we watch it, we honestly capture something new every single time. Yeah. And that's, I think, the connection you have with that.
Yeah. Same thing, Pitch Perfect 3. You didn't like Pitch Perfect 3. I've given it a chance enough times now that I think it's actually a good movie.
Yeah. I might have to give it another go.
I'm good. We're gonna get a lot of hate for some of these things we're saying. That's the whole point, right? Like yeah. These are guilty pleasures. Like most people would not agree with the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. That's how it becomes guilty.
Well, I don't think Pitch Perfect 1 is a guilty pleasure. I think that's objectively a fantastic movie.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't go there. But I mean, it's a great movie. Everyone knows I love the movie. But the guilty pleasure might not be that I love the movie. The guilty pleasure might be that I watched that movie on average at least once a month.
The guilty pleasure is your obsession with
The
it.
obsession with it, yeah. It's not just me though; it's my whole family. At least somebody in my family, within the next couple weeks, will say, "Can we watch Pitch Perfect tonight?" Like I think it was 1 week ago that I watched it.
That's awesome.
For like
I like
the
it.
bazillionth time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's so funny because like every single time I catch something new, you know.
Yeah.
Like like I love all the little quotes in it. When he said that, he mentioned like, "Oh, I don't have a girlfriend," and she's like, "But what? You have juice pouches in Rocky." Like just the little quips in there.
Yeah.
I just love that. And then you pick up on it every time. And then she's like, "Oh, you got burrito behind your ear," and she's like, "Leave it. It fuels my hate fire." You know, like there's so many things.
What a finish up like a
and everybody
cheesecake.
knows that movie's good. No one's arguing that.
No,
no,
it's
there's
great.
no way. There's no way anybody that's watching or listening to this is going to argue that. There's no way.
No, but I will tell you who I expect judgment for this next one.
Uh-oh.
I expect you all to judge me. I expect it. And if you don't, then I judge you back. I don't even know if I want to share this. This was an accident, okay, that I ended up watching this. It was. Here's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I had very, very aggressive shoulder surgery. You remember that? That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I had to have a triple surgery on my shoulder because I torn the labrum like 70% through or something to that effect. And I had to do all these bone spur shavings. Anyways, coming out of that, I was immobile. You know what I mean? I could barely move for a day or two or whatever. And I was in the living room because I could be propped up there, and the TV was on. And everybody left, and I couldn't get the remote, so I was forced to watch what was there. Would you like to know what was there, dude?
No.
I'm going to tell you. Here it comes. Jersey Shore.
Oh, you
Yes.
didn't.
We're talking about the
Reality
situation.
TV show.
The situation. Pauly D.
MTV reality
Yes.
TV. No
This
way.
This is like the worst thing in the world. And I remember being like, no. I thought about finding something just to throw at the TV and break the TV, right? But instead, I was like, I guess I'll watch. And then all of a sudden, I started to get a little bit invested in Snooki, Pauly D, and the situation. And I'm like, these people suck. Like, this is so stupid. Like, I cannot believe the problems that these people have convinced themselves they have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden I got invested in them being successful in their journeys, like GTL, Gym Tan Laundry. That's their day that they go to the gym, they work on their tan, and then they do their laundry, and they call it Gym Tan Laundry. And it's like this thing, and you want them to be successful on that day. And then when the cabs would show up, so they go out clubbing, they'd say, "Cabs are here." And then I would just, every time it would come, the cabs would show up, and I would say it along with Pauly D. "Cabs are here." And next thing I know, my wife's like, "You like this show?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." She's like, "Yes, you do." I'm like, "Yes, I do." And I was just super invested in it, dude. And that is a legit guilty pleasure. It was awful. Oh, I'm so glad I got that off my chest.
That's a tough one. I can't top that. You should have saved that for the end because there's no topping that. I mean, I will admit I've watched like some reality TV. I like the show Big Brother. I've been addicted to Big Brother since like season 3, which my wife doesn't have the fondest memories about Big Brother because her introduction to Big Brother was while she was in labor.
Oh, okay.
So my wife's in labor, right? Not quite ready to actually give birth yet, but it's the process. And my parents come to visit in the hospital room, and it just so happened that at the time that my wife was in labor, Big Brother was also on TV. So my parents walk in the living room and say, "Hi, how's it going? You good?" And she's like, "Yeah, in labor, having contractions, not quite there yet." And they're like, "Cool," grab the remote, and they turn on the TV in the room to Big Brother. And she's like, "You came to visit me so you can watch Big Brother while I'm in labor?" Like, so she doesn't have like the fondest like appreciation for Big Brother, but she'll sit through it and kind of watch it with me. But I watch Big Brother. I like it. For me, I like the social deduction stuff, right? Like to see them like socially engineering and like forming alliances and breaking alliances and backstabbing and all that kind of stuff. I like to see how people's minds work and how they get caught up in their lies and stuff.
Yeah.
I just think that's fun.
Yeah.
Kind of like playing Among Us,
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's fun to just see people, how they can work their way out of lies and stuff. But okay, I could see that. There was one. So you didn't just stop at Jersey Shore though.
You really going to do this to me?
Come on.
You really going to do this to me?
Because I got to know for myself. Because I got a story behind behind this. You want to talk about Tim and Whit?
Yeah, all right. I love Tim and Whit, dude. But let me. Okay, so here's the bottom line. So Tim and Whit, and I've mentioned them on this podcast before, but Tim and Whit. So it's Whitney Port, who was part of, and this is where I always blow it. She was part of one of those reality shows.
One Tree Hill or something?
No, that's not a reality show. That's just a stupid show.
Oh, I don't know.
She was part of. She was part of
The Hills. Did it have the word hill in it?
I think it's the Hills. Yeah, did it have the word hill in it? I think it was. I think it was the Hills. Anyways, she was part of that, I believe, and then one of the producers on it was Tim. And they just kind of met, and the rest is history. They're married now, right? So then they decided to do she was she was the star of The City. She was in The Hills, I believe, but she was a star of something called The City, where it's basically when she branched off and it was kind of her show. And I don't know which one he was a producer of. It's irrelevant. Anyways, they ended up starting their own YouTube channel where they do reaction videos to her show, which was The City. And then once they finished it, they realized they had gotten a following and it was time to move on to other shows. So they did other shows and now they just kept on going. Now they're doing one called Siesta Key, which is just like these people. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be too judgy, but these people are awful. Not all of them. There's quite literally 2 people on the cast of Siesta Key that I'm like, I like her and I like him. And I'm talking about them as people. Everybody else is garbage. Like this, it's such a weird and judgy thing to say, but I'm doing it. Like, and for the record.
So wait, are you now watching these reality shows?
Okay, so yes. So hold on. Let me get there. I want to say my piece because I want it to be very, very, I want to be very transparent that when I say these people suck, I'm smart enough to know that whom I'm judging is what's being edited and what's being directed. And the reason I know that is because since I watched Tim and Whit, this is supposed to be a reality show. That's a bunch of horse crap. It's not, dude. It's not. They're being pushed.
What? Reality shows are scripted?
No, they're not necessarily scripted. They're not like say this, say that, but they are like you have to go bring up this topic with this person.
Go start a fight with that person.
Yeah, pretty much, right? And Tim,
we need some drama.
Well, Tim lets you kind of behind the curtain on that front, right? So it's not lost on me that a lot of what I'm seeing, it's not genuinely who some of these people are, but some of it you just can't hide. You know what I mean? So anyway, so we ended up watching that, but I stand by Tim and Whit, dude, because he is so funny.
This must be another one where you got to give him more than 5 minutes because
big time.
You tried to talk me into checking them out, and I turned on their thing, and 5 minutes in, I look over at my wife, and we had the same look on our face. What is Skizz thinking? This is the biggest piece of garbage
no, it's not.
we've
You're
ever
wrong.
watched in our lives.
Now, did you watch like their beginning of their stuff?
I don't know. No, we probably just whatever recommended. Boom.
So that's kind of weird, right? You can't win. If you start at the beginning, you're going to see not good stuff. They were like quite literally. This is what I find so brilliant.
Well, if you go to the first video I ever made, then you're going to feel the same way.
No, exactly, right? But this was to the point to where they were still trying to learn their equipment.
Yeah.
And they had like their camera, their main camera.
It was further along because I mentioned like how I hated the fact they kept like superimposing a face over top of the show and it would like wiggle and stuff. And I was like, that was so cringe. And you're like, dude, that's part of the charm.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, dude, that's cringe.
You trust me on this, dude. I know what I'm talking about. If you keep watching, what's going to happen is that you're going to become familiar with who Tim is, and you're going to become familiar with who Whit is. Okay, and here's the best part: you're going to become familiar with Tim's disposition towards a certain character on the show. So when they superimpose his face over that character for an exact moment, and he does all of his goofy faces, those faces are supported by, like, he really loathes this person. So he's going extra, like, over the top by trying to, you know what I mean? Like, it is, at first it's jarring and you don't really get it, especially when you have you guys went in with goose egg of context. You had no context whatsoever. So it was one of those things that if you committed a little bit, it does, and it might not, but it's a guilty pleasure.
I'll be honest, we aren't going to
You're not going to give it a go.
We will never
Doesn't matter that I'm right. Every piece of advice I've ever given you have always been right.
No.
I'm batting 1,000 and you're still going to go back to the dugout.
Jersey Shore. I'm not going to watch.
No, you don't need to watch Jersey Shore.
This.
I'm not going to try to get you a Jersey Shore. I'm not going to try to do that. You don't need
You could have that guilty pleasure. I don't want it.
That's fair. Now, what's funny is when I talked about the Jersey Shore one, you said, I can't top that. Right. And I'm sorry, dude, but that goes to one of my biggest guilty pleasures of all time. is to top that scene in the movie Teen Witch, which is the stupidest scene in the world. And
You've talked about this before,
play it
haven't
right
you?
here. I haven't talked about this before. I sent a tweet out that you, me, and Tango are going to learn that dance. So
no, my God, no.
So here's the best part. The
So
dance
bad.
itself is so ridiculous. And I hope I was able to play it up here. The dance itself is so ridiculous. And the notion that this is supposed to be a really charismatic character and that's what's happening, you must be joking. Can you believe, Impulse, the irony of what I'm about to tell you? Yesterday I came across a clip of that actor. I don't know if I could say today, but obviously decades later, reflecting on that scene. And he talks about it and he's just like, ugh. Like he talks about that day, he was not like outright fighting with the director, but there was a lot of debate and him talking to the director being like, do you know how stupid this is going to be? Like, do you know how dumb this is going to be? Like he kept going. He's like, if you want this to be suave, let's dial it back a little bit. And then the choreographer's like, you got to go like this with your hands. And he's just like, you don't understand. I'm going to be the laughing stock, man. And it became like one of the funniest, stupidest scenes in the history of forever. But he was just like, I got to give it up. I kind of admired this actor, to be honest, because as time went by, and what he said came to fruition and it became known as like one of the most laughable scenes in cinema history. He's just like, that's just what it is. You know what? And he sees himself as a professional actor. He dedicated that was his craft. And now he's got this job and he's put into this role of the dumbest thing ever. But my guilty pleasures, I've watched that scene like 1,000 times. It's so funny.
Oh my God.
It's too good. I love it.
Oh, I'm trying to think of what else I got a guilty pleasure in. What about, okay,
I have so many.
we talked about like songs, movies, TV shows, reality shows. Let's see, in the YouTube world, is there anything YouTube wise? No, I wouldn't say I have a guilty pleasure in any of the YouTube stuff I watch. Like, I think I do get into more of the gear related stuff a lot. Like I'll watch like people talk about the latest mixing board that came out on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there's this new one that's even better than the Rode Podcaster Pro too. That's amazing. it can send the audio over the network NDI. So you could, anyway. So yeah, I have a little bit of guilty pleasure in like being a gearhead when it comes to like streaming equipment and audio video equipment. But I wouldn't say that's a guilty pleasure because I feel like that's kind of normal, right? Like
I think so.
That's just a hobby, that people get into.
Yeah.
I don't really read a lot of books. As far as books are concerned, I'd say that when I do read books, they're mostly self-help books. So maybe there's a little bit of guiltiness in there that I'm always like trying to improve on whatever, like, having boundaries and being more efficient with my time and being healthier. Like I was reading one about a guy who did an Ultraman on steroids. It was cool to read. But not much there with the book. Anything else?
My list is way too long. Apparently, I will say this. I don't think it's a guilty pleasure that I watch poker the way, like as much as I do. Like when I watch poker, nobody in my family can possibly understand. Like, how is it, Dad, how can you sit here and watch what might be the most boring thing I've ever seen in my entire life? And I understand why, if you're not into it, because I'm watching what you can't see. You know what I mean? I'm watching a whole different level of this interaction that you can't see. There's times when I'm watching one poker player have a reaction to another one, and I'm aware that this reaction is being fueled by a bout that they had several months prior. You know what I mean? And I like that. I like that. Mm-hmm. But I will say the guilty pleasure part is probably the way I watch it, to where I will watch the same hand like several times in a row, and I'll rewind and watch it over and over again just to study every nuance I possibly can. It's not going to do me any good. It's not like I'm going to play with these people, but it's to study the nuances of the people whom I admire as poker players and see what I can learn from that. You know what I mean? Like I study it on a kind of an obsessive level. And I suppose that's where it kind of turns into a bit of a guilty pleasure.
Right. Yeah. It's okay to just casually have hobbies and stuff. And when you get obsessive about it, I guess it can become, it can lead to a little bit of guilt that you become obsessed.
It's just like a little much. It's too much or something.
I mean, I can say that about my obsession with Phasmophobia right now, I might be like, I feel guilty playing it. I played it off camera yesterday. I feel guilty playing it off camera, but I that's just called like having some me time.
You're having some fun. You like it.
Some me time. That's no big deal.
Here's one, and this is, I fully admit this is an actual guilty pleasure, is TikTok. Like I honestly like I don't I can't believe like how I will be working and I'm just like I'm stressed and I'm whatever, and the second I start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, I go right to TikTok, and I don't know why I do that. There's like so many cool things on it, and there's also a lot of garbage. So through time that it learns you, and you weed out a lot of the garbage or whatever. But you end up like, that's how I came across Estepario, the drummer. That's how I came across was TikTok, right? And then you see like all these other really cool things. Like I don't know why I like the crushing machines. I'm like, do you know who Bushman is? Do you know what that is? I can't stop watching.
Is that
Bushman.
the guy who is in a bush costume and he like scares people when they walk past him?
Why?
That's still a thing?
Yes, and I love it.
How is that still a thing? After the first like 3 people, it's the same thing over and over again.
Because their reactions are different every time. That's what makes it so funny.
Has he ever been kicked in the face?
No.
Has anybody like knee-jerk react to just like, the fight or flight and they went to fight, they just kick him right in the face?
Well, I haven't seen that, but I have seen somebody hit him in the face, but it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. They knew when they did it, they knew that there was no danger. They were just embarrassed that they got startled, and they did that. And so Bushman, that's exactly what you're talking about. He looks like a bush and he pops up. He's like, he doesn't touch anybody. Just kind of, it's like the bush moved. He also does one where he's in like a big snowman outfit, right? And he like moves or whatever. And I would say 90% of the time, the mark is just starts cracking up. You know what I mean? And it's very rare you get somebody who's like, doesn't like fun. But he got hit in the face, and he probably shouldn't have, but he went and clocked that guy back. I don't agree with that, but yeah. But anyways. So TikTok, like it pulls me in, man. And I don't have time for this, and it's this weird, like I'm stressed. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna unplug for a little bit. And dude, I hate to admit this, but sometimes like 10 minutes will go by. And I'm like, I don't have 10 minutes to spare. What the heck? That was supposed to be like a 30-second thing, and it's actually pretty embarrassing, but that's real. That's a real guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, like the idea of like your phone pulling you in that way. The only thing that does that to me is like Twitter will do it, but mainly like when I read YouTube comments, like I'll get done, making videos, and at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I haven't read any comments today, and so like I'll go and sit on the couch or whatever, and have the news on, and then I don't even pay attention to the news. I start reading comments. And it's like, next thing I know, it's like, oh, I just read 100 comments. Like, what happened to the last 30 minutes of my life? And then, do I feel any better after reading those comments? Not really. Yeah. Because there was that one in there that got under my skin, but the other 99 were great.
It's like you're looking for the ones that make you feel bad. It's crazy.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, it's a whole.
And in fact, a little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Next podcast, we might dig into that a little bit further.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
So, because especially after this one, we're going to be getting a lot of judgment. What if we flipped the script on this? Because talking about guilty pleasures, is there any what's the opposite of pleasure? Pain? Guilty pain?
Guilty
Do you
pain?
have any guilty pain? Here's one. Here's what I mean.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't call it a pleasure. but I am addicted to it. We have this like bathtub in our backyard that has like a system that cools the water to like ice water temperature. And I love getting in it. It is painful every time. It is so painful. Get in the water. It's like right now we've got it set at like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's pretty cold, but not as cold as it could be. But you get in and it's immediately like, like your body does like trigger that fight or flight, and it releases like, like chemicals in your body and stuff when it happens. And it's painful, but then like I get out of it after like 5-10 minutes and I just want to get back in. Like I love it. And I'm addicted to it. Like every day I got to get in it. It's good apparently it's really good for the body, as far as like, and it will help like hopefully burn some fat too down the road. We'll see.
Well, GSP subscribes to that in a big time. George St. Pierre, he's a big time MMA fighter. He subscribes to that in a big way. He has a big It looks, if I'm not mistaken, he's got a big barrel that he gets that he
Okay.
fills with ice water and gets all the way up.
But
to
he
his
actually
neck.
like dumps ice in it.
Yeah.
See, this is where it's like, okay, this machine that cools the water saves us from having to buy ice every day, and which would be a pain. So it makes it real easy.
I know it's supposed. So my I know where you're coming from, and I have an example of guilty pain that I can give you. But I will tell you the cold water thing. I could not be further from you on.
First of all, you wouldn't fit in the tub.
That's true
Because we
too.
didn't get the XL tub.
Yeah,
Because me
yeah.
and my wife are both 5'8". So.
Yeah, I would be my knees would be against my ears. No, my wife and I were at a where were we? We went to a resort. I think we may have been in Jamaica. I don't remember, but there was a part of the pool that was separate from the rest of the pool, and they called it like the healing section or something. And it was quite literally what you're talking about. It was not connected to the real pool. It was physically, but the water didn't mix. And it was much, much, much colder water. And they set it up so it was like that water was coming down these rocks. It was actually kind of cool. So the concept of it was good. I'm like, oh, let's go get in that. That sounds neat. I got in and I was like, no, and I just got right out. I do not handle cold water or cold in general. I don't do
It'd be
it.
interesting to see if you forced yourself to just go through it, because part of it is the
I've
mental,
done them.
mental discipline to just do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, every time going to get in, I have fear. Like I'm like, oh god, this is gonna suck, and then I just force myself to do it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And then the suck passes, and then you're just kind of like, I just did that.
Yeah.
Like and then you get out, and it's just like you feel so good.
Well, I'll tell you. So I've had to do the, like when I injured my IT band, which goes on the outside of your knee from your ankle, outside of your knee up to your hip. And that thing was like massively inflamed. So I had to take a lot of ice baths, right? So what I would always do is I'd fill the tub with a ton of water and ice, and you've got to be careful. You can actually make it too cold with ice, right? You actually have to sort of know what you're doing. Otherwise you could,
You don't want to get
ironically,
hypothermia.
you could actually create more inflammation. It's crazy. I've done it before to where I was like puffier afterwards because I did it wrong. Anyways, I would fill it with ice and water, and then I'd get in and just kind of grin and bear it. Just get in and and it's the worst. But I learned through time that don't do it that way. Get in water and then have somebody pour the ice in. You know what I mean? Because then it's like the boiling frog. Yeah. and you can feel you're still cold, but you're getting it done, right?
Yeah.
Well, when I hiked the Grand Canyon and we were at the bottom, and I'm mainly talking about the first time I did it, to where I trained a lot in the gym to get like from an endurance standpoint, but I didn't train my stabilizers. So my feet, my ankles were jacked up by the time I got to the bottom. So we used that Colorado water because it's freezing, and we used that to, cool our stuff. So all I had to do was going up to my knees, whereas my wife was up, like had her entire bottom half. And well, we went to another section of it that they call the beach, and it's just as cold. It's super cold. And it was like, I went into my hips just to like really get it done. And my brother was like, okay, rite of passage. If this is your first time, you got to dunk. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And he's just like, rite of passage, man. Anybody here, if it's your first time, you got it, because he does this a lot. And everybody did it. Everybody did it. And he's like, okay, now you. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, it was this weird thing where he's like, why not? I'm like, because I don't want to do that. Like, this also feeds into our next podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, because that looks miserable. I don't want to do that. I don't need to do it, and I don't want to do it, and it's just nothing but misery. I'm just not going to do it. And I get so you have to almost find a little bit of pleasure in the discomfort. And my example of pleasure, or what do you call it? Guilty pain. When I was going through my rehab after my shoulder surgery, and I had to go to physical therapy for a long time, they would put I would do all this stuff, right? They do all this. It was a miserable several months of my life, but they would put these electrodes at the end of it. They put these electrodes. Yeah.
I actually own those.
Do you really?
Yeah. Because I was having back issues so much that I just finally just bought them. And then I would just have my wife like put them on the back where they needed to be, and like turn it on, and it does the thing where it like clenches your muscles when it electrocutes them, right?
Yeah. So they'd put it on, and then the first time they did it, they said, "Okay, I'm gonna turn it up notch by notch. Tell me when you can." They would literally tell me the second you can feel anything. And so they'd go click, 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 and then they would get to a click, and I would feel this like buzzing through my shoulder, and I was like, oh, I can feel that. They're like, okay, stay here for 15 minutes, and I'm like, okay, and they do it, and I enjoyed it. Well, as I started going back, I realized I want more, so I started not telling them, and then I got to a point to where it was starting to hurt, but I liked it. I'm like, okay, right there. Then it got to its thing, and it would just like it was being shocking me, and I just liked it. I don't know what that is. Then I decided I'm going to go the distance with this thing. I want all the juice. So they're clicking up, and they got to be able to go that high because sometimes there's going to be certain parts of the body that it's going to need more to get to where it's got to go. I'm assuming up, and I'm not saying a word. And she's like, "Can you really not feel this?" And I can feel it, dude. And I'm like, "No, I can't. I can't feel it." And she's like, "Up. Can you really not feel this?" So now she thinks it's broken. I'm like, "I can't feel anything." Up. And next thing I know, my arms twitch. And she's like, "You can't do." She turns it back down. I'm like, "But I like it." You know what I mean? I was like, but it was like super painful, but I enjoyed it for some reason.
Title of the podcast today, Skizz is a masochist.
No, I don't know what that was, man.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. I mean, so if we keep talking about, if we want to flip it, there are things like if we want to talk about food that I get a lot of hate for because I outed myself the other day and told the world I do not like pickles.
Yeah.
And that apparently is a problem. Apparently, not a lot of people.
I'm very upset. If I knew that was going to be on your list, I would have brought some pickles and we would have had one right here and now. The right pickles.
I can't stand pickles.
You're not eating them.
I can't stand pickles. I could probably handle like the sweet pickle, but like a straight up like dill pickle.
God, how many ways can you be wrong? Not sweet pickles. Gross.
Just
you need just the crunch, dude. A nice cold pickle.
Can't stand it. Anytime I go out to eat and I have like a burger and fries,
can't stand.
And they put the pickle on the side because they do that a lot. Or they put the pickle on the side, but they always put it up on the fries, basically. I don't. And then I have like those like 1 or 2 French fries with pickle juice in them.
Yeah,
and I won't touch them. I'll throw those away. They're so gross. I don't like pickles.
How much would it take for you to drink a jar of pickle juice?
Oh, jeez.
Because apparently, if Lamar Jackson had done that, we would have won.
Yeah,
that
right.
year.
You don't get cramps, muscle cramps, if you can drink pickle juice. Oh man. A jar, okay, so you get a jar from the grocery store, you eat all the actual physical pickles, and what's left is the juice, which is probably about half the jar at that point.
I would have a hard time doing it. I'll tell you that.
Man, yeah, it'd probably be in the hundreds before I would do it. I think I'd need at least $500 to pull that off.
Let's okay. We here's what we need to do. We need to have future podcasts that have a tie to the podcast that's happening right now, where we make some sort of promise that we're going to eat a pickle on a
it's
podcast
better
in
than
the
eating
future.
the hot wings, dude, because wow.
That was miserable.
That was painful.
That was
especially
miserable.
The second round.
Yeah, the second round. If you don't know what we're talking about, so Impulse and I did the hot ones and it was miserable. But we think we may have prepared it a little off to where it pulled some of the heat out. We weren't quite sure. We suspected as much because we got through it and it wasn't easy, but it was like
not as painful as we expected.
Not as painful as we expected, but it was almost instantly obvious that we're going to get through this, I think. Yeah. So we decided to revisit it. We went to actual wings instead of popcorn chicken, and then we marinated it in it instead. And then we didn't, and then we heated them up, and then we put fresh on all of them, so they were wet,
marinated, and then double coated.
And we did it with Tango.
It was insane. Yeah, we did a live stream because I had a goal on my live stream for a certain amount of subs, and we hit it, and I needed to come up with a reward. And I was like, what if we do the hot wings live? And then you and Tango joined, and so there's a stream out there. It's on my second YouTube channel, Impulse SV2, if the people want to go see it. But that time was much more painful.
Oh yes,
especially when I took the hottest sauce, the worst one, Da Bomb Beyond Insanity, and I put it in my eyeball.
He did it.
That was I didn't do it on purpose. That's something Steve-O would do.
Yeah. I don't even think he would do that. He might snort it, but I don't think he would do that because I don't know. I actually have no idea if that could be legitimately dangerous for your eye.
I think it probably
or not.
could.
Yeah,
something that bad.
Because you were in the bathroom like rincing your eye out for a while,
sucked. And then I had to come back and finish.
Yeah, that was a boss move, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, pickles. I'm gonna get a lot of hate because a lot of people love pickles, and I just don't get it.
Yeah,
I just don't get it. I mean, if I want to continue shaming myself here, that olives are next. I can't stand olives.
Really, I like olives.
And mustard would be my next, but I am starting to come around. My wife is slowly getting me to like mustard by like honey mustard. And then we made like a barbecue chicken thing the other day that had like barbecue mustard, which is weird. But it was very good. And I was like, okay, I can handle that, but it's just straight up mustard. No way.
Yeah.
So if you really want to torture me, we'll dip pickles in mustard and then I'll finish it off with an
I don't
olive.
want that even a little bit. That's terrible. So here's another guilty pleasure, dude. Okay. I'm an old fella. Okay. I'm a man. I love SpongeBob.
Okay. I was getting a little nervous. Where are you going?
Where did you think I was going? What was that? I love SpongeBob. I love it. And I think what I love most about this is how many people just said, that is not a guilty pleasure. SpongeBob is awesome. I will sometimes watch that show by myself. I don't need to have, my kids are all grown, but I started to realize, because when they were little, we'd watch it together. And then one day they were not in the room and I caught myself watching. And I'm like, oh, I like this show. Yeah. And it's a great.
I think that happens a lot, though. I mean, I don't shame you for that at all, because Phineas and Ferb was one.
Oh, it's a good one, dude.
That my kids would watch, and every time it was on, I would sit down and enjoy it just right there with them.
Yeah.
I Dora the Explorer, didn't get into that. Maybe Little Einsteins. Going on a trip.
I don't remember
my favorite rocket ship.
I don't remember.
No? Okay. There's that. Okay, well, we'll take that one then. We'll take that one.
My favorite rocket ship.
There's people that know what I'm talking about, and they're gonna be like, "That's a great show." Yeah. But yeah, it's easy to get sucked into like the kids shows, especially when you're exposed to things. Again, it's an exposure thing. I think the same reason why you got into Tim and Whit, and I never will, is because I'm never gonna
can't say never, dude.
I'm never gonna allow myself to get exposed enough to enjoy that. But where was it gonna go? Oh. As far as like being older and appreciating or liking something that's meant for kids, the biggest obvious one is Minecraft.
Okay, very
good. The fact that we are older and we like playing a video game that, in the public's perspective, like what they think of the game in general is that it's a kid's game. Most if you walk the neighborhood and run into 10 random people, 9 out of 10 are gonna say, "Oh, that's a kid's game." Right? Yeah. And you'd be like, yeah, well, I'm an adult and I've been playing it for 10 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so there's, I guess, in that respect, as far as like your definition that you stated at the beginning of guilty pleasure, that would fit the bill, because it could be kind of like shunned or looked down on by the general population that we're adults playing in what they deem as a kid's game.
Yeah. Yes. However, I stand by anybody who thinks that that's a kid's game. If you start playing it, you'll realize, no, this is an anybody game, is how I feel about that. Yeah. But
the public perspective is wrong.
Yeah.
But it's still there, so therefore it's not deemed socially acceptable. Good. And that fits the bill when it comes to talking about guilty pleasures. So I mean, that's like the most obvious one that we have in front of us. Yeah. Is that we how many people have you run into that, or like family or whatever, that's like, hey, how's that Skittles man thing going? and you're like, oh yeah, I made some Minecraft videos this week. I mean, do you feel confident like talking to your random family or whatever that knows you're doing this, that you're making Minecraft videos? Are you like fully confident when you're talking to them, or do you feel a little bit like, oh, they're looking at me like, dude, you play kids games for
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like when I come across people who don't know what Minecraft is, and they're like, "Oh, what's your YouTube channel about?" and it's games, and I play games. Like I literally leave it at that. So
you don't mention Minecraft straight away.
No, well, I'll say what game, and I'll say, well, Minecraft is one, and so we have. This is, I can do. There's tutorials, or there's storylines, or whatever, and there's just a lot of different ways to do it. And I always say, I don't think it's that I feel bad about it. I think it's like, I don't care to explain this, because it's never going to work.
What their perception's going to be. And so you're not going to want to spend the time to try to change it.
I don't know exactly, but not only that, but I'm not going to be able to, because you need to just go play it. Just go play it for an hour, come back, and then I'll tell you why this works. But if you're not going to do that, then it's too hard for me to explain, because this is a very weird thing to anybody who doesn't know. I mean, Mumbo was talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense to people who don't do this, whether it's making it or watching it. If they're completely out of that realm, it's like, what do you do? And you're always going to get that a little bit of judgment, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So maybe, I don't know, maybe loving the game could be, but you're right. The bottom line is that the perception is unfortunately a form of reality. And that is what it is that if you don't play it. What I don't like is people who just make up their mind on stuff without having no exposure at all. I never play that game. That game's stupid. Have you ever played it? Well, no, I won't. What are you doing? You have no frame of reference whatsoever. You're not going to give it a go. So that's another topic entirely. But I will tell you this. Here's another one. And this is weird. I don't know if I would categorize this as a guilty pleasure, but it is weird to me. I've never been a boxer. You know what I mean? I've never been like a professional fighter at all. Obviously, I like MMA, but I'll tell you what I can sink a lot of time into is just watching old clips of Mike Tyson. That like it is the craziest thing in the world. What a specimen. And to watch what he was doing when he was 14, 15 years old, that dude was born to go on the record of mankind as one of, if not the greatest boxer that ever lived. He was crazy. And watching the things that he could do, and the kind of speed that he had, and his ability to hit somebody twice with the same hand in a blink of an eye, just enough for no other reason other than to stun them enough so he could come in with that famous uppercut. Like watching him do that to people and just being like, dude, this guy was an absolute master. That's something that I might be I don't box. I don't know anything about this. I have no place like kind of liking it on that level, but I just found myself being consumed at watching somebody being so good at pummeling other people, you know?
I enjoy watching people that are just good at stuff in general. You know, even if it's like something that's not necessarily a hobby of mine or any of that. Like anytime that you can, like, I've never solved a Rubik's Cube ever. I've never tried hard enough to do one. But then to like see somebody get a world record and solve it in like a matter of seconds, less somehow, like. I'm in awe of that. Or like people with yo-yos, they do the yo-yo tricks. Like I have no clue how to do any of that. But like just seeing people excel at such a high level at anything is always something I'm like super drawn to, and will stop me. I'm not a TikToker. I don't do TikTok, but like if it shows up on my like recommended videos or something, I'll go check it out. So those are things that are great. Like, and obviously when it is something that is a hobby of mine, like Estepario, like is a drummer, you know, seeing somebody that good at something that you have somewhat relationship with is even more so. But yeah, I'd say as far as guilty pleasures, anytime I can be in awe of somebody and what they're capable of, I'm going to be drawn to it for sure.
Yeah. But I don't think that's a guilty pleasure. I think that's just liking watching people be good at stuff. Here's one I will fully admit, almost by complete definition, this is a guilty pleasure. I like making homemade nachos. Now that seems harmless, but it's not.
Why didn't you ever make me nachos?
Because they're for me.
I want nachos. I want nachos right now.
They're not, but it's not like here's what makes it a guilty pleasure. It's not like it's good nachos with like, you know, proper, you know, queso cheese or whatever. It is like sprinkled on shredded cheese that you put in the microwave. What am I doing? Do I think I'm 14 years old? That's where it's just like completely ridiculous. That's something you make when you're a teenager.
Am I remembering right?
No, don't do it.
When you did a little stay at
don't do it.
You in college, you rented a room basically in my parents' house when I was still living there too. And I had a mini fridge, and I remember you used to stock it with the weirdest stuff, man.
I was trying stuff.
You would have what was it, like Cheese Whiz?
No,
it was like some sort of liquid cheese.
No,
and then like tortillas, and you would basically just spread this liquid cheese on the tortilla and microwave it, and that was what you ate.
No, it isn't.
I know.
No, it would be shredded cheese. That's
it was not shredded.
It was. It was. I'm not putting
like,
easy cheese on it.
It was like Cheese Whiz, dude.
No way, dude. I'm not even I'm not.
I remember you making it and being like, "What is this dude doing?" That's okay, because when I was younger, I used to microwave bologna.
Oh, my brother did that.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
So you microwave. I didn't like bologna at all, but I would microwave it so it was like crispy, almost like a bacon.
Yeah.
And then it was good to me. So I do make weird things as well. Like all the time, I'll mix stuff together that my wife is looking at me like, "There's no way that's gonna work," and then I'm like, "Yeah, it's good." I've always wanted to like just come up with some sort of thing that nobody's ever thought of and been like, you know what I mean? Because whoever invented the pizza, I'm sure that's what they were up to. Yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that. And then boom, and then the pizza is the best thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking someday I'll be able to do that. I'm pretty sure it will involve ranch though, because I have an addiction to using ranch.
Oh, you
with
love your
everything.
ranch.
Like ranch goes with everything in my mind. You know what I mean? Like French fries, dip ranch in it. Ranch
I see
on everything.
Impulse puts ranch in his coffee.
Pretty much. Yeah, yeah. So maybe there's if we're talking about food, there's a guilty pleasure. Is ranch goes with everything in my mind.
Yeah, and that's I would say maybe my biggest guilty pleasure with food, and this is something quite literally. The guilt I feel is so real that I haven't done it in a very long time. Like I've not had this in a long time. Jack in the Box, double cheeseburger,
good ranch,
large fry, and 2 tacos. Are you kidding me?
Holy cow.
That is not necessary. Now, like
the 2 tacos is definitely not necessary.
And exactly.
Like here's a full meal and throw 2 tacos on the
yes,
side.
dude. What is that about? Now, again, that's been a very long time. And I think the last time I did that, which I was old enough to where I'm like, I don't feel good. And that was like, I don't think I'm ever going to do that again. You know what I mean? But I remember every time I had done that meal, which was also not often, it was just like this. These are all the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
This is the worst decision I can make, and I'm just going to carry on. I mean, that is a guilty pleasure. There's a reason I'm not telling anybody about this until I'm apparently on a podcast. Like, you know, so it's.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can go wild, right? Like, have you ever had their Baconator? You don't eat bacon anymore.
No, I don't eat bacon.
Did you ever have their Baconator before you stopped eating bacon?
I believe so.
Like that thing is massive. It's like patty. Bacon, patty, bacon, like it is massive, and I enjoy that from time to time. I don't do Wendy's anymore. I don't do fast food hardly at all. Like I have one exception, and that's Culver's. Like
oh man, I haven't had that.
Yeah,
in so long.
I'm pretty much like just over fast food.
That's
I
the
don't
best
enjoy
way to
it
be, dude.
at all.
Yeah, that's the best way to be, and it's. I used to like when I was younger. I mean, I'll give you this. How about this? Fast food was not a guilty pleasure until I started to realize that it should be, right? So you go back to when you were a kid. I'm sorry, you're so active as a kid. I mean, it was crazy to eat
your
the
body
garbage.
needs the calories.
Yes,
it's growing
dude.
and doing stuff.
I'm 17 years old. The amount of calories I'm taking in is ridiculous, and I'm chiseled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like you don't think about stuff like that. But as soon as you start to get a little bit doughy, maybe don't go to Taco Bell. But no, I'm going to go apparently 10,000 more times in my life. You know, it's like that's where it becomes a guilty pleasure.
I'll tell you that since we're definitely off topic. That's okay. When it comes to fast food, I sometimes feel like there is some sort of like addictive ingredients they're putting in because like Taco Bell, for instance, like my wife does, she's never liked Taco Bell ever. And that's kind of when you get married and you have a partnership like that, you're eventually going to just adapt to what each other does. Right. And she wasn't into Taco Bell. And I was as a kid, and so you know I basically stopped eating Taco Bell. I hadn't had Taco Bell in like years, right? Something happened. I don't know if my wife was out of town or whatever, and so I ended up picking up Taco Bell. And so I got Taco Bell one time after like multiple years of never having Taco Bell, and I ate Taco Bell, and for the next 2 weeks, all I could do is think about wanting more Taco Bell. After years of not thinking or wanting Taco Bell in the slightest, all I could think of was I want more Taco Bell.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, they do something. There's crack in here.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, but luckily I didn't. I still, now it's been that one time and it's been years again since I've done Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I just don't do it.
Dude, my wife's tuna casserole. I have no business eating that. Are you kidding? It's got potato chips in it. It's got noodles in it. You know what I mean? It's got cream of mushroom soup in it. I mean, it is my favorite meal. Is my wife's, and she knows it is. So she
5,000 calories per bite.
Per bite, bro. And she knows that it's like my favorite meal. So she like almost never makes it because it really is sort of that unhealthy or whatever. But she kind of keeps a good eye on when like life
the
goes
comfort
south.
meal.
Yeah, and I mean it really does have to be pretty bad for her to be like, listen, I'm gonna make some tuna casserole. But when she does, you know, I love it. But you know what I also don't need to do? I don't need to have 3 servings of it. You know? Yeah. And she made it for us one time years ago. And I remember I was like, I'm gonna study Impulse. I'm gonna see if he's into this as much as I am. And dude, you loved it. And you went back for seconds. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like me, man. It's so good.
Can't stop.
Yeah.
Oh, Anyways, we got into food. We must be getting towards lunchtime here.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a good chance to wrap things up. But before we do, I'd actually like to throw it out there because we have a comment section on our YouTube videos.
All right.
I would love to hear their guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
You guys want to
share?
Maybe use an anonymous account if you're really guilty about it.
Yeah.
But throw it down in the.
That's a great idea.
Throw it down in the
If
comments.
you have one that you really are legitimately like too shy to talk about, that's your business. That's 100% fine. But yeah, give it a go. Like, make an anonymous account, go in there, and because I'm curious if we're going to come across. Because I was thinking about because you made up a joke about biting your toenail. So I was like, oh, but then I was like, wait a minute, I bet you people do that.
Yeah.
And that could probably be looked at as a guilty pleasure. You know what I mean? I sometimes, I don't know if you do this. I kind of bite my cuticles. Do you do that?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't mess with nails as much, but when I did have a time where I was like plucking at my eyebrows.
Oh my goodness.
Like I just like find one that was
Stop
longer than the rest and I would
stop.
and then I realized that was like a stress mechanism of mine. I mean, obviously my eyebrows are fine. I didn't pluck them out, but like I would just find that I'd just be sitting there and like all of a sudden, what am I doing? I'm pulling at my.
Oh God, I can
not my
feel
eyelashes, like my eyebrows.
I know.
So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do better and like try to like keep them trimmed so there's none long enough to pluck at. But anyway, yeah, I guess I fell into that a little bit. And
That's fine.
I had to teach myself to stop doing that. That's like a nervous tick.
So do that. Go make an anonymous account if you need to. I like that idea. Do an anonymous account if you need to. And tell us about your guilty pleasures.
I bet you that's harder than you think to make an anonymous account on
probably.
YouTube.
Oh, probably. Yeah, you have to just smash a keyboard.
First name Anon, last name Amiss.
You pop anonymous. So do that. I'm curious to see what they are. Maybe make me feel a little bit better about myself. I
want to see because I bet you anything like in reading some of yours, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And then I would have had a much longer list to talk about today.
That's true too.
Anyway, that's a good time to wrap up. Apparently we're hungry.
Good podcast, and I'll see you next time.
Yep. See you later.
Bye.